there, my name is Hido and welcome to the Pantheon, where today we've got to the end of Modern Horizons 2. It's taken me a while to get here, I must admit. I wasn't that interested in this deck, but it's still quite a cool commander, and considering it's an uncommon, it can do a bunch of things. So, let's have a look at Captain Ripley Vance. 3 mana for a 3/2. Pretty good in limited. The human pirate, and whenever you cast your third spell each turn, put a 1/1 counter on Captain Ripley Vance. Then it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So if you cast your third spell, off the bat, you're going to be bolting something for free, which is pretty goddamn good. Look at all those cannons. And I like how this is a callback to the lands enchantment thing, that if you cast 3 things, Vance's blasting cannons, all that sort of gubbins. It's really quite cool, and I think we can build quite a cool deck out of this. It is mono red, so not the strongest, but it's still quite cool. If you like these videos, please do consider subscribing. I'm going to be making one of these for every single legendary creature ever printed, ever, forever and ever. And all the ones that come out, so, my toil is never done. Without further ado, let's have a look at my top 5. And at number 5, we've got Jeska's Will. And all of these cards are sort of rituals, but this is by far the best one. 3 mana for a sorcery. Choose one. If you control a commander, when you cast a spell, you may choose both. And both of these modes are incredible with the commander. Add red for each card in target opponent's hand. So our opponents, they're going to be playing Magic. They're going to have a lot of cards in hand. We're going to get a ton of mana because of this. Or exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. So this is the first spell of our turn. We do a bunch of ramping, exile the top 3. We're going to have lots of options for casting a bunch of other spells with our commander on the field. We're going to bolt everyone. Tons of damage with all our cannons. But a couple of other rituals that we could play. Desperate Ritual. 2 mana for an instant with Arcane. Add triple red. This is a nice little bit of ramp. And I think in this, we want the ramp to really accelerate us in the deck. Really take advantage of that. It's a spell that we're casting and we're going to get that effect of our commander. Then mana guys are incredibly powerful. 5 mana for a sorcery. Add red for each tap land your opponents control. This is spectacular. Late game, this can make you 20-30 mana. And if you're not winning the game with that, well, you are playing mono red, so it's understandable. Then we've got Piratic Ritual. 2 mana for an instant. Add triple red to your mana pool. That's it. That's just the card. But it works so well in this deck. And we've got a lot of cards which can take advantage of producing that mana using spells. And one of those is Arrrrrgh, God of Storytelling. 3 mana for a 3/3 for a legendary god. Whenever you cast a spell, add a red. Until end of turn, you don't lose that mana as the steps and phases end. And also, creature control boasts twice during each of your turns rather than once. If you want to play a bunch of both spells, go for it. I ain't going to stop you. But the main thing we're interested in, we're going to be casting a lot of spells and we want to get advantages from that. And Arrrrrgh making mana is one of the best. All of our cheap spells, they're essentially going to be free. We can chain them together, draw some cards. Absolutely fantastic. Then the other half of Arrrrgh is Hanfell, Horn of Bounty. 5 mana for a legendary artifact. You can discard a card to exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. So yes, if you don't want the mana from Arrrrgh, we can get the Horn and produce an absolute ton of cards, which is, pretty decent. Then this is the card I was alluding to earlier, Vance's Blasting Cannons. 4 mana for legendary enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. If it's an online card, you may cast that card this turn. You do sadly have to pay its mana cost though. And whenever you cast your third spell this turn, you may transform Vance's Blasting Cannons into Spitfire Bastion. Spitfire Bastion is a legendary land that taps for a red, so whoa. Mono red ramp. Ooh, magnificent. And you can pay 3 and tap it to deal 3 damage to target creature or player. So you can see how this fits with the commander. It's very, very cool when you see, abilities like this taken from a card and then translated into the legendary character that it's talking about. But here's a couple of other ways that we can chain together spells and really take advantage of it. Aetherflux Reservoir, 4 mana for an artifact. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. Pay 50 life. It deals 50 damage to target player or creature. Now, this can absolutely end games. You know, if we're going to be chaining a lot of spells together, this is the card to be killing people with, as well as our commander. Then Experimental Frenzy, 4 mana for an enchantment. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play the top card of your library. You can't play cards from your hand. And pay 4, Destroy Experimental Frenzy. So this is great in the late game. You know, we've exhausted all of our cards in hand. And then we can just chain a bunch of cards together. Absolutely great. Can really go through the deck. And then, very similar to Burgee here, we've got Runaway Steamkin. 2 mana for a 1-1. Whenever you cast a red spell, if it has fewer than 3 1/1 counters on it, put a 1/1 counter on it. And then we may remove 3 1/1 counters from it. Make 3 red. This can be done over and over again in a turn and can really help us churn through the deck, get absolutely tons of advantage, loads of mana, and then maybe we could play a big burn spell to finish off. Brings me on to number 3. And at number 3... well, we're going to be dealing damage, so why don't we just deal 10 damage and kill our opponents with Infect? Infect does work with the activated ability, well, the triggered ability of our commander, because it's going to be dealing damage. Infect doesn't care how the damage is dealt, it doesn't have to be combat damage, so this works excellently. 4 mana for an equipment, quick creature gets +2/+2, and has Infect. Wherever it becomes unattached to a permanent, sacrifice that permanent. Then equip for 2. So if we give our commander Infect, we just have to bolt them for 5 and then 5 again, that's 10, or we could just deal big fat 10 to them, which is going to happen with a couple of cards I've got coming up. But why don't we build sort of an Infect deck around it, or, you know, at least have a couple of Infect ways to kill people. Fallen Ferromancer is a 4 mana 1/1, wow, with Infect, and you can pay 2 and tap it. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So this can just sit here, they're pinging away at your opponent, slowly giving them Infect, and then they'll kill it, and you won't be able to deal that last point of Infect. Oh dear. But there's Plague Mare, 2 mana for a 1/1 with Infect, and you can tap for a generic mana. Really, really good, nice little mana ramp, and it's also an Infect dude that maybe we can pump it up somehow, get in there for lethal damage. Then, a land that does something, you know I love him. Inkmoth Nexus. Tapped for a generic, pay 1. It becomes a 1/1 Blinkmoth artifact creature token with flying and Infect, so a nice bit of invasion. So this can get in that final one that the Fallen Ferromancer just couldn't. You know, you can swing and pew, you're dead. Or we can Razor Swine them. 3 mana for a 2/1 with first strikes and Infect. Incredibly simple. You'll love it. Then there's Vault Charge, 3 mana for an instant. Vault Charge deals 3 damage to target creature or player. And then Proliferate. Proliferate's great in any sort of Infect deck. You choose any number of permanents or players with counters on them and give each of them a counter that they already have. You know, just keep those Infect counters going. I love the artwork on this one. I'm not entirely sure what's happening, but that big sort of bulbous head thing just looks horrifying in every way. Then if our commander's got Infect or we've got some Infect creatures on the field, Chandra's Ignition is a wonderful card. Even if our commander doesn't have Infect, this can deal loads of damage. 5 mana for a sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. This can absolutely just wipe out a bunch of players. Bing bang bosh, everyone's dead. Then let's have a look at number 2. So our commander is by default a 3/2, but let's improve on that slightly, shall we? With Unleash Fury. 2 mana for an instant. Double the power of target creature until end of turn. So at base, it'll be a 6 power creature, but why don't we stack these sorts of effects? Why don't we have Fatal Frenzy as well? 3 mana for an instant until end of turn. Target creature you control gains trample and gets +X+O, where X is its power. Sacrifice at the end of turn. These sort of effects, you can just keep piling them onto our commander. And the nice cheap instants that we can play not only on our own turn, but on our opponent's turns as well. Because our commander can trigger on their turns as well. And we can just be firing off tons of damage wherever we want. Then we've got Burning Anger, a 5 mana aura. It enchants a creature, enchanted creature has tap. This creature deals damage equal to its power to any target. So if we've buffed up our commander a bunch, why don't we just turn it ever so slightly sideways and then deal them 27,000 or something ridiculous. And then the Soul's Fire, 3 mana for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to any target. Very similar to Burning Anger, but it's a one-shot spell, which is probably better in this deck because it adds to our one of the 3 spells per turn. Really, really nice. And then in at number 1, we've got a bunch of ways that just work magnificently with our commander. And the best one, I think, or at least the coolest one, is Ignite the Future. 4 mana for a sorcery. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may play those cards. However, it has flashback, so if you cast it from your graveyard for the flashback cost of 8, if this spell was cast from your graveyard, you may play those cards without paying their mana cost. Absolutely wonderful. This gets us to our 3 spells for the turn through the flashback, and it just digs deep and deep and deep into our deck. So early game, we can play this, then we've got a bit of time to sort of play the spells out. Late game, this just activates our commander and just get it in for a ton of damage. I love these sort of cards. And then we've got a Tali, Primal Storm. 6 mana for a 6/6. Whenever it attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana cost. So again, this can potentially hit us 4 spells, you know, when it attacks. And then we can order them however we want. And we're going to trigger our commander, which is exactly what the deck's here to do. Then Knowledge Pool, an interesting one here. 6 mana for an artifact. Imprint. When it enters the battlefield, each player exiles the top 3 cards of his or her library. Whenever a player casts a spell from his or her hand, that player exiles it. If that player does, he or she may cast another non-land card exile with Knowledge Pool without paying its mana cost. So whenever we cast a spell, we're going to exile it, and then we get to cast a different one. So that's 2 casts for the price of 1. It's absolute random chaos, but that's what red is all about, isn't it? So we can get a ton of value from this. Then, one that I never thought I'd really be playing, Hazoret's Undying Fury. 6 mana for a sorcery, shuffle your library, then exile the top 4 cards. You may cast any number of non-land cards with converted mana cost 5 or less from among them without paying their mana costs. Lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. That last line is incredibly crippling, but you can get a ton of value from this. Really dig into your deck. Oh, loads of cards, but admittedly, I can see this card going incredibly wrong. But one that generally doesn't is Mizzix's Mastery. 4 mana for a sorcery. Exile target card that's an instant sorcery from your graveyard. For each card exile this way, copy it, and you may cast a copy without paying its mana cost. Exile Mizzix's Mastery. And then it's got Overload for 8 mana, which means when you cast it for its overload cost, change the text of target to each. So if you've got a bunch of instant sorceries knocking around in your deck, maybe you built this as a storm deck, this just targets, well, it doesn't target them all, it just exiles them all and then you cast them all at once. And it's definitely going to trigger our commander. Then, talking about recursion, Underworld Breach, absolutely wonderful card. 2 mana for enchantment. Each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard, which means you may cast it from the graveyard for its escape cost. And at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice Underworld Breach. This can rebuy all of our big spells, you know, even if we've sacrificed a couple of artifacts, you know, maybe you're playing the mana rocks that sort of sacrifice them to draw a card, you know, Mind Stone, Hedron Archive. These can rebuy them. It's wonderful. Really, really awesome card. And it will get you to a trigger of your commander. Finally, Sunbird's Invocation, 6 mana for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's mana value. You may cast that spell with mana value X or less from among those cards without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is, again, another way to get a great bit of value. You're going to be casting another spell from this, and then you simply have to follow it with one little cantrip or something like that, and you've activated your commander. And those are my top 5 cards for this brand new commander. I like a pirate, not going to lie. You know, I'm a Jack Sparrow sort of guy. Although I do, well, no. Actually, they've just revealed in Sea of Thieves that Jack Sparrow will be in Sea of Thieves, which has me fantastically excited. Honestly, I love Sea of Thieves. Brilliant game, so I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please do subscribe, like, and comment. And I'll, make a bunch more of these because there's thousands of commanders to do. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.